Hello friends, today we'll discuss about the specific strategy that you should be adopting while attempting the mains examination, specifically with respect to the preparation for paper 2, that is polity and international relations. So when you see the syllabus, what we'll be doing very briefly in the next 30 minutes or so is to try and understand what is important from an examination point of view for the mains examination this year, and at the same point of time try and see what things should be kept in mind while answering a question and what should not be resorted to while answering the questions. And also briefly we'll look at some of the major topics which should definitely be covered by you in your run up for the preparation of the mains examination. So if you see the syllabus itself, let's first just briefly see what are the areas of the syllabus itself which is important, and then we'll move on to see what are the specific topics which are important for the examination this year. When you see the syllabus for general studies paper 2, you see that there is a division in terms of governance, constitution, polity, social justice and international relations. Now what I specifically would want you to focus from the mains perspective is on the basics of constitution and governance, something that you should have gone through the amount of detail. At the same point of time, what you need to understand, roughly 70 out of 250, 70 to 80 out of 250 marks, or 1/3 of the paper will be specifically focused upon international relations, and so a specific focus has to come on international relations with greater amount of attention being paid to the recent developments from an Indian perspective in foreign policy. Another important area is the whole governance and the constitution thing that we've already talked about. So let's just go and see the syllabus, and before that let's try and understand what should be kept in mind before attempting answers in the mains. What is important to understand that on an average roughly 15 to 25 questions are asked in your mains examination in paper 2 if you see the past 2 years pattern. What you also need to understand is that you are roughly getting somewhere between 8 to 10 minutes to answer every question in the mains. You're getting some 20 questions or so. The understanding is when you have some 8 minutes to answer a question, what is important first of all is try and complete the paper at all costs, and try your best as to not leave any question in the paper itself, because that is something that must be thoroughly avoided. A question which is left completely blank is a very big mistake, because the fact that it reduces chances of your score actually being on the higher side. So try and attempt all the questions, and for this what is important is that you stick to the demand of the question and you try and address the demand of the question in a straightforward manner. What is important even while writing the answers is, and what is highly desirable is from an examination point of view, that you write and try and stick to answers in a point-wise format, especially for the constitution and governance related topics. Try and write answers in a point-wise format. So if the demand of the question is basically talking about reforms that should have been brought, for example, with respect to the higher judiciary, or with respect to the working of the education sector, or say with respect to any particular governance specific reform, your answer should clearly point out crisply and to the point. Try and not focus too much upon writing a lengthy introduction or a conclusion, because you may fall short on time. The first priority must be to complete the paper, and so try and address the nature of the question and the demand of the question specifically. If the question asks you to compare and to critically analyze a governmental policy, or critically analyze what suggestion or what improvements must be made to the parliamentary system of democracy, etc., then in that condition you should clearly point out firstly the strengths and weaknesses of a particular system, and then try and answer in the last part a way forward or suggested recommendations to improve upon the working of the system. Often the recommendations which you are suggesting should be based upon governmental committees' recommendations. For example, we've discussed specifically with respect to governance, good governance, citizens charter, e-governance, specific recommendations according to the second ARC recommendation that you would have gone through in the tablet itself. Now, the next important thing that you need to understand is that when it comes to answering the questions in a point-wise format, refrain from using a point-wise approach, and as far as possible, do not try and use a point-wise approach while answering international relations questions. So while answering questions on topics related to international relations, please refrain from using a point-wise approach. That may be a more preferred approach in terms of writing governance and polity related questions. Okay, so if you keep this much in mind, this is the basic things that you have to keep in mind about what should be done and what should not be done with respect to the mains question. It is highly desirable that you come to the questions about which you do not have much clue at the last while answering the questions. Answer the questions that you have fair amount of knowledge and understanding at the start, so as to ensure that you do not in any condition miss out on the questions that you know already. At the same point of time, it is highly desirable and recommended that you complete the question paper, because leaving out questions and not attempting them, simply closes the possibility of you scoring even 1 or 2 marks on those questions. So even if you have a less idea, try and write those questions at the last, so that you at least you are in a position even of getting 2 or 3 marks out of, say, 10 marks, because that score also adds a lot of value when there's a cumulative accumulation of marks over a large number of questions. So keep that in mind. The next important thing that you need to keep in mind is the important topics which are important from an examination point of view this year. What we would want you to do is we'll actually point out some 5 or 6 major key issues and areas that you should definitely focus upon in polity area, and some 5 or 6 areas in the international relations sections. What is important is that you definitely focus upon this, because there is a very high likelihood the question may come from these areas. Let's see the polity related topics. The first issue, I would say rather, is the whole constitutional debate as of now. For example, on the relations between the directive principles of state policies and fundamental rights. For example, right now the whole controversy regarding the ban on cow slaughter and the meat prohibition. For example, the ban on cow slaughter is a directive principle mentioned under Article 48, and how do you reconcile this directive principle with the rights of individuals mentioned under fundamental rights? So this is an issue that we've dealt with at great length before in the tablet itself, and this is one of the issues which can come in one way or the other. Another important thing, even with respect to that you should keep in mind, another important topic is the whole issue of the right to privacy. The right to privacy has been hotly debated right now, and the Supreme Court has recently given guidelines as to how the right to privacy should be read, at least with respect to Aadhaar, and on what are the Supreme Court recently came up with 4 guidelines with respect to the working of Aadhaar, and that should be kept in mind. Also, the right to privacy, whether it is a part of fundamental right, is also and what are the limits to right to privacy? This is a question again which is important from the mains point of view under polity in your paper 2. Another important topic is Article 377 and the issue related to the rights of transgenders, because it is the first time in the past 30 years that a private member's bill on the issue of transgenders, on the rights of transgenders, has been passed. And on the other hand, a recent judgment by Rohinton Nariman and others in the Supreme Court argues that we need to, or the Constitution should provide special protection to the transgender community in the form of reservations in higher education and jobs also. So this is another issue of the transgender community and the legalization of homosexuality and the decriminalization of homosexuality, which can give rise to a question, and specifically in the context of the rights of transgender individuals under fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 19 and 21, and how Article 19 and 21 relate to the issue of homosexuality under Article 377. So that is an important issue. Another important issue is with respect to the appointment to the higher judiciary. The appointment to the higher judiciary and the problems with it is also a critical issue, and specifically the National Judicial Appointments Commission and the appointment procedure which has sought to be modified by the NJAC bill. It's also an important question which has been in a matter of debate for some time now and can come in the mains examination. Also, an important topic is the whole issue of good governance and the whole issue of e-governance, specifically in the idea of good governance, because the new government at the center has had a very dedicated push towards e-governance. So the whole issue of e-governance, something that has been discussed at length when we have talked about before, about the whole idea of good governance, what are the second ARC recommendations on good governance and on reforming e-governance. So this is something that you should go through the lectures that you have with yourself before you go for the mains. Also, what is an important topic is, for example, the Shreya Singhal case with respect to the repeal of Section 66A of the Information Technology Act 2000, something that happened in the early months in 2015. And so the whole issue of fundamental rights and the right of freedom of speech and expression over the internet, and how did Section 66A of the Information Technology Act actually curtail this right, and what should be done, and how does the Supreme Court ruling actually reinstate the right. So that's another important issue. One of the last important issues with respect to, I would say, polity related topics that you should definitely cover is the issue of poverty estimation and the issue of socio-economic caste census. Issues related to poverty and hunger is a separate subtopic in your paper 2 syllabus, and that's the issue of poverty measurement, a very important topic, and especially the relevance of the socio-economic caste census and its findings is important from the mains point of view. That also should be covered, and details on the socio-economic caste census will be shortly provided to you in the forthcoming lectures. What you also need to understand that apart from these 5 or 6 major topics from polity point of view, some 4 or 5 major topics from international relations point of view also must be definitely covered. So you may be aware that the land boundary agreement with Bangladesh has been recently signed by the government at the center, and to that extent it is a historic deal, and will give a very significant push to India's relations with Bangladesh and has a very significant impact on India-Bangladesh relations. Again, this is something that we have discussed at great length in the lectures before in the tablet, so you can go and review them before the examination. The SAARC and the issue of regional connectivity is also an important issue because of the new government at center, which has given a dedicated push towards regional connectivity. The relevance of SAARC as an institution, what is India's role in SAARC, and what is SAARC doing to promote regional connectivity is an important issue. For example, a very recent agreement which has also been signed in 2015 is a motor vehicle agreement, as well as a agreement to build road and infrastructure connectivity links, and something that has been called as the BBIN corridor, the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal economic corridor, which will be built in the coming years. So that's another important agreement that has been signed to boost regional connectivity within these SAARC nations, and this agreement has been signed between Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Bhutan. So that's the BBIN corridor that you also need to focus upon. Basically, the issue of regional connectivity, what are the obstacles to regional connectivity, what are the problems with respect to the functioning of SAARC, what are the challenges with respect to the functioning of SAARC, and how can it be made more effective. So this again issue is something that we have dealt with at great length before, and you should definitely focus upon it because the question is likely to come almost every year. At least 2 to 3 questions every year are likely to appear from India's relations with its immediate. South Asia as a region carries much more importance in Indian foreign policy and from your examination point of view. Also, what is important here is that it is the first time that the new Prime Minister Narendra Modi, after Jawaharlal Nehru for the first time went to Central Asia and visited all the Central Asian countries. Also, India has been offered the membership of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, along with Pakistan. So that the India's joining of the SCO, the relevance of SCO and India's Connect Central Asia policy, they all become important, and it becomes extremely important from the examination point of view. Also because of the fact that Russia has announced a Eurasian Economic Union in January 2015, and what is its relevance. So this whole issue of Central Asia and India-Central Asia relations is very important this year from the examination point of view. Also, with the removal of the sanctions on Iran by United States, India-Iran relations and how does India-Iran relation fit into the larger look west policy of India is also very important from the examination point of view. And finally, in December 2015, we have the Paris negotiations coming up on the climate change issue, and it is quite much likely that a question on climate change negotiations and Indian foreign policy stance can come in the examination. Some of these topics also we will be covering in the forthcoming lectures with you. Also, now what you need to understand is how do you actually structure an answer. So let's just take one example of a question which has appeared last year in the mains examination of 2014. And let's take the question that came in the polity section, that just one question we are considering, that starting from the inventing of the basic structure doctrine, the judiciary has played a highly proactive role in ensuring that India develops into a thriving democracy. In light of this statement, evaluate the role played by judicial activism in achieving the ideals of democracy. Now, if you look at this question, what the question is asking is the working of the Indian judiciary from the time the basic structure doctrine was proposed in the Keshav Nanda Bharti case of 1973, and is looking at the issue of judicial activism and the strengths and the weaknesses of the Indian judiciary with respect to its working. So what you need to point out in your answer is, when you're asked in a question to evaluate the role, what you're supposed to do is to bring the strengths as well as the weaknesses of the working and then take a measured stand. So what you should be pointing out is, for example, firstly, what is judicial activism and the idea of public interest litigation that came after the Keshav Nanda Bharti case, and the public interest litigation idea that came in the 1980s. So first thing is what you need to point out in your answer is the definition of judicial activism and also is the whole idea of public interest litigation. So then in the second part, you should point out which has been the cases where in cases of judicial activism, the judiciary has interfered in matters of the legislature. Then how judiciary has interfered in the matters of and has actually taken up the matters of the executive. So you point out specific examples and cases, for example, that we have discussed even before, like the judiciary's intervention in legislative matters was the direction given to the government for in 1998 as to the Supreme Court guidelines on to prevent sexual harassment of women at workplace. Similarly, the Supreme Court monitoring of cases which are being investigated by the CBI, that is a judiciary's involvement in the work of the executive. And so when after you have pointed out these instances, these are cases of judicial activism, also point out cases of public interest litigation which have been taken up by the judiciary. For example, the case in Delhi with respect to air pollution and with respect to the judiciary taking up the matter under the whole idea of preventing individuals' right to life and liberty and imposing and giving directions to the government to bring about strong systemic reforms to prevent or to tackle the problem of air pollution in Delhi. So that was the 1998-2000 verdict on the issue of air pollution. So once you have done this, in the last part of the answer, you should point out that judicial activism over a period of time, when carried forward, can result in judicial overreach and a violation of principle of separation of powers. And thus, in the long run, judicial activism or judicial overreach is detrimental to the stability of the democracies itself. So that's the way you actually structure the answer, that try and bring the strengths and the weaknesses of the arguments and the positives and the negatives both, and then in a way forward, if at all there are governmental recommendations, you can suggest them. So that's what you need to remember. Now finally, if you just come to the syllabus, especially another important topic from an examination mains point of view is the topic of federalism. Almost every year you will find questions on federalism coming, and for example this year another important topic which we did not talk about till now, a very important topic on which a question can come is the issue of fiscal federalism, especially in the light of the 14th Finance Commission recommendations. So 14th Finance Commission recommendations should be clearly kept in mind by you and should be kept in detail, go through them in detail, because there's a very high likelihood of a question coming from this sector. Now, comparison of Indian constitutional scheme with that of other countries is also a very, very highly important topic, because till now, since the syllabus changed, a new question or a question on the comparison of Indian constitution with other constitution has not yet appeared in your question paper in the mains, but it is quite much likely that a question can be asked, and we have discussed in our lectures at specific points of comparing India's parliamentary form of democracy with presidential form of democracy and many other comparisons of the Indian constitution with the American as well as the British constitution. So to that extent, these comparisons are important and specific questions can come on these comparisons specifically in the main section. Now, also what is important is the Representation of People Act, the issue of electoral reforms. A question on the issue of electoral reforms also can come, and we have discussed all these electoral reforms specifically as you will go some 8 or 10 major issues that need to be resolved with respect to bringing about electoral reform in India with respect to the whole procedure of elections. So that is also something that is important. Finally comes the whole idea of governance and good governance. You will find that the issues of governance, transparency and accountability is a specific topic which comes only in the mains, and questions from governance, accountability, citizens charter, e-governance are not asked in the prelims. So this is a topic exclusively from which you expect some 20 or 30 mark questions to come in the mains directly. Also, this portion is directly useful, especially of tackling corruption and how can you build systems to tackle corruption even for your ethics paper, and this is a part of overlap of the polity syllabus with the ethics syllabus also to an extent. So that's also something that you need to keep in mind. Finally, India and its neighborhood, a strong focus has to be on South Asia as a region if you have to, looking for foreign policy from India's perspective, and questions from India's immediate neighborhood have repeatedly, almost every year, there's a question on India's foreign policy relations with one country in South Asia or the other. So South Asia has a very important likelihood of appearing in your question paper. So that is also something that you need to understand. One more important issue that is gaining prominence with respect to international relations right now and can come in your examination is the whole issue of United Nations Security Council reform. And so that is some issue with the United Nations General Assembly meeting very recently that has happened. A question can come on the United Nations Security Council reform and India's position on UN Security Council reform. What are India's arguments, etc. That is also an issue that you should keep in mind while you're preparing for the mains this year. So now that we've discussed some 10 to 12 major important topics which are important from paper 2, do try and keep these and go through these topics before you go for the mains examination. And once again, what we're trying to emphasize here is stick to the points, try and answer after understanding the demands of the question, and try as far as possible, and it should be possible to answer all the questions. Even if there are certain questions about which you do not have much knowledge, don't leave the question. Write something about the question, because even then you can gain at least some 1 or 2 marks out of 10 marks, and that also when added up together comes as a huge chunk of marks which you can gain simply by addressing even some basic demands of the question, if not addressing the exact demand of the question. With this, we wish you luck for the coming mains examination. Thank you.